Alright, we're on our 12th episode of TACTALK. I'm your host, Alden Morris. We have today on the show, which I'm really excited to present, Maia Espinoza. Maia is a local from the Pacific Northwest out of the Pierce County area. She's got an extensive background with the community, politics, Civil Air Patrol, especially the educational systems around here. From what I understand, she's gone to PLU, she's gotten a bachelor's degree. She's toughed it out here as a parent here in the Northwest and seen the both sides of the scale, the spectrum when it comes to being a married parent and a single parent. And with all these qualifications, she's gone and she's now made herself a legitimate person for politics. And that's someone who I support now, especially with my voting record. And so we won't waste any more time here. We're going to introduce Maia Espinoza. Maia, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Alden. I'm so excited to be on your show today.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Well, give us a brief background of how you got into where you're at right now. With everything that I said, of course, you know better. So tell us how you got here.
Sure. So as you kind of mentioned, I'm running for office here in the Pacific Northwest. I'm running for a state representative in the 28th legislative district. So that's JBLM and the surrounding area. It includes University Place and Fircrest, parts of Lakewood and Tacoma, and then even goes down as far as Roy, Spanaway, and Graham. It just kind of swoops behind the base and encompasses a couple of that rural area back there. So it's a pretty wide district, and I've lived in this area. I'm a military brat. Both of my parents were in the Air Force and Army. And, you know, you and I were able to do Civil Air Patrol together. I went on to do junior ROTC in high school at Clover Park High School. I participated in Running Start, graduated from PLU, started a business, worked in the private sector for more than 10 years, became a single mother when I was actually in college. So got to go through, you know, the welfare system and a couple of different social service programs that I really got some firsthand experience that I wasn't, I guess, too familiar with before, but also wasn't expecting to be set up the way that they are. So I'll talk a little bit about that. But with this kind of wide array of experience, I ended up taking a job in Olympia as Senate communications staff back in 2013. And that really was what opened my eyes to the state government here. I mean, I think we really have an underappreciation for our state level and all of the decisions that they make and what kind of impact they have on our everyday lives. I certainly didn't appreciate it before going down there and really seeing, you know, I mean, really everything that's decided from sales tax to school regulations to car tab fees.
No, and drawing on that question, then, why do you think that is? Why do you think not so much attention is given to the local voting system as opposed to like the national voting system?
Yeah, I mean, you know, our national news focuses immensely on national politics daily, but our local news touches on it occasionally. I mean, it's really just during election season that you might get to hear some things, but really once it comes down to election season, some people are trying to tune it out. It's no longer about the issues, it's about the people. And I think it's these state-level issues that really, number one, we're not teaching in schools. We're not teaching state government in schools, and federal politics will always find their way into our lives. So that's kind of what I have seen.
Well, see, and I've noticed the same thing this past growing up here in the Pacific Northwest myself. Every election year, it seems to be, like you said, it seems to be almost taboo or avoided, especially when it comes to like Tacoma News Tribune or even Fox 13, Cairo, and Como. Yeah. They hardly ever highlight these topics, but this year, for what's going on the ballot this year, it seems to be the most marketing and advertising I've ever seen on a ballot this year, especially for issues like 1631, 1634, 1639.
The ballot initiatives especially have a lot of money behind them on both sides of each issue.
Yes, Democratic and Republican, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And a few of the issues are actually, like if you look at the soda tax or the gas tax, these are all things that at a national level, these industries are very concerned that we're starting a new trend, that we're setting a new precedent here in Washington State by taxing soda and, you know, making that a sin tax. I mean, we have sin taxes on alcohol and cigarettes. and now they're putting it on soda.
Well,
So the soda industry, obviously.
yeah, they put it on as far as
concerned.
even ammunition in Seattle, specifically around King County. So,
Right.
it's just not just you talk about church from being separated from state. I mean, it doesn't seem. I mean,
Right.
the whole point
No
of a
doubt.
tax is to punish and to get people to stop using. So it's almost like, for example, an income tax. It's almost like they're punishing you for working. So that's another.
Well, and the sad part, the sad part about the soda tax is that it's not curbing purchases. So in fact, you are legitimately hurting low income and people that are buying sodas. They're not changing their habits. You're just taxing them more.
Yeah, exactly. And then I believe just a report came out today where the city of Seattle actually has been receiving more money than they anticipated from the soda tax.
You got it.
Yeah.
Right. So in effect, either it's gone up or our population has gone up. In any way, it's not curbing the same way that they were expecting it to do.
Yeah.
And, there's kind of a difference in thought. Some people think that we can legislate behavior. Other people, we know that taxes disincentivize, but is it working in this case? It's right now. It doesn't look like it. It's
no.
It's not.
And why go after soda if you want to curb behavior? Why not the local strip clubs around every corner of the block in certain cities,
Right.
the ghetto bars that most people try to avoid? That, for example, I even have family members myself who have been shot at and are now in wheelchairs and things like that. Let's curb behavior by going after what we can control, and that's a commodity, just by adding a tax. So. Yeah. Then on that note, let me ask you our first question for the show then. What are your thoughts and suggestions on opposing these initial taxes that are being increased in our state? Not just the current taxes that they're trying to increase, but the new ones. For example, Jay Inslee campaigned for his re-election as governor on promising not raising a single tax or not initiating a new proposed tax, and he's done the exact opposite since then. What would you do for District 28? What would you do to kind of secure our confidence that this won't happen under your watch?
Yeah, in District 28, we are in a unique circumstance with our taxes. So particularly pertaining to Sound Transit and the RTA tax. Sound Transit 3, the car tap fees. But it's not only the car tap fees. So a lot of people notice that. That's actually the first thing that I hear about at the door. What can I work on for you? Car tap fees. It's the vehicle registration annually. It spiked way up for a number of people. But your property taxes and consequently rent was also affected by Sound Transit. They also added a raised tax there. Now, this was something that was voted on via initiative, so you can't really say that Inslee did that one, but that is one of these taxes that in the 28th district, I can offer something different. The person that I'm trying to replace offers really... She does not show any signs of wanting to fix this. For one thing, when we sat down in front of the Tacoma News Tribune, I called this issue out as the top issue in our district. And she just shrugged her shoulders. She was like, I don't know. I don't really hear about that. Then at a Lakewood forum, she's like, I'm working against car tab fees. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought it wasn't important.
Yeah, so she's almost like taking your ideas and capitalizing on what she sees that it's working for you, and it comes to your demographic of...
Well, it's very calculated, and a lot of these politicians are and have to be. In order to get reelected, they got to have this long game. Okay, I'm going to campaign on this one for 2 elections. Then on the third one, when they're really fed up, we'll fix it. It's just a big scam. And so I call this stuff out. With her in particular, she talks about this. She had the only bipartisan bill to cut car tab fees. Well, guess what? Not only did it fail and didn't go anywhere, it would have offered 5% back. So that's like they steal your $20 and flip you a nickel.
Yeah.
That's the fix. No thanks. That's not a fix. And there was a bill in the Senate. The senator of this district, Senator O'Ban, he had a bill that passed the Senate that would have cut car tab fees by 55%. So a real fix, right? Or at least something. She could have been that one vote in the House, because both the House and the Senate are off by just one vote. She could have been the person to say, we need to pass this bill over here. Let me get this across the finish line. But she sat on her hands. So no, this is exactly the type of games they play with us. And they want to point fingers. Oh, it was the Republican. It was the Democrats that did. No.
It was a lack of our own representatives not being involved with the actual knowledge behind the bill.
So as far as taxes go, though, that is one piece. I mentioned property taxes. Those went up because of Sound Transit and also because of McCleary. The
Mm-hmm.
McCleary decision fully funded education finally, and the good news is the Supreme Court said, okay, you did it. For now, you've done it, you've accomplished the goal, but it completely increased property taxes in our district by a lot, and teachers are still striking.
Yeah, of course.
So
Yeah.
Right. So I want to look at what we're spending now before we start increasing taxes. And in education, that's administration. We spend so much on administration.
I've noticed that our leaders of our state, specifically our state, not so much the individual counties, but our state, it almost has nothing to do with, it brings up the taxation, but our state is one of the few states in the union that have actually legalized marijuana, but yet they're still hungry for taxes as if we have these major issues such as homelessness, for example, or drug addiction that can't be covered with the amount of income that we're coming with just the taxation alone. So they got to keep taxing more. Who's not auditing this information and finding out where the money allocations are being distributed to?
Well, I can tell you that our state treasurer is auditing it, and he actually came out during the last legislative session because the legislature made this creative way to be able to circumvent the Constitution and be able to raise taxes without putting it to the people.
Yeah.
Actually, they depleted our savings account without having to go to the taxpayers. And the state treasurer came out, he made a statement and said, please don't do this. Not only are you setting a bad precedent where people might try to do this in the future, but it's risky and it's going to put us in further debt at a time in our economy where we should be saving, not spending everything, including savings. You're absolutely right. By legalizing marijuana, by business in our state doing well because we don't have an income tax, they're sticking around, we have more money than ever. In fact, a surplus. Last year, $2.3 billion surplus. Money we didn't even budget on, didn't even plan on getting.
Yet they need another unlimited amount for homelessness and drug addiction. They need an unlimited amount.
They have a short list of pet projects that they've been wanting to fund for years, and then it's so much easier to go back to the taxpayers with a new and current problem and say, but we need to raise taxes. Because of the children, because of the homeless, because of, whatever it is. It's always a tax for a good reason. Same with this energy tax they've got going on. Yeah, it's a gas tax. It's a tax on us.
Yeah, exactly.
We all know how this works.
So not to cut you short here, we got to cut for our first commercial break here, but when we get back, I do want to hit you, I want to get your thoughts and suggestions on the homelessness in our counties, especially in the Seattle area, the drug addiction problem, and then the traffic between I-5, on I-5 between Seattle and Tacoma, and of course, suggestions and tips and thoughts regarding how to better environment for our children. So we'll be right back after this commercial break.
All right.
Bees Combat Systems at beescombatsystems.com, protecting those who prepare. 801-987-0893 for custom body armor carriers and tactical gear for military, law enforcement, contractors, corporate security, responsible citizens, and border patrol. Bees Combat Systems at beescombatsystems.com. 801-987-0893. Hi, and we're back with Maia Espinoza. We're going to be talking about a couple of more topics. Maia, I do want to get your thoughts briefly on what suggestions you have for battling the homeless problem that we have, not just in Pierce County, but King County as well, because that seems to be the target for our state. And then the drug addiction. A lot of people disagree with these safe injection sites or the taxpayers having to fund heroin for homeless people, for example, or that kind of issue. What suggestions do you have to kind of bring the confidence in the 28th district to make that a better thing for you to vote, for us to vote for you? I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, right now, it's the status quo is not working. The more we spend, the worse it's getting. We can't just put more money into something that's failing. I have worked with homeless teens, and I'm working to bring a shelter to Pierce County this winter. Actually, I'll just plug this real fast. Teens, so people 13 to 17, if they're homeless, there is no shelter in Pierce County that they can go to. They have to be put on the streets.
Or in a juvenile detention center.
or take your
Yeah.
pick. Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
And that usually brings up
we're
the bad rep right off the bat for people who aren't doing any crime.
Exactly. So
Mhm.
this I'm working on, and oftentimes they're fleeing dangerous situations, domestic violence, or
Mhm.
maybe leaving a foster care home. But in any event, these kids are not being taken care of, and there are neighbors. There are, they may be even school classmates of our kids or our friends. It's really sad, and we need to do something about it. So I'm working to do that this winter. Regardless of if I get elected, this is something I've been working on, and I think it's important. But I bring it up because one of the things that our organization does differently than I think the state is doing right now is a holistic approach to the homeless issue. So it's not just a meal over here or a bed for the night over there. It's a coordinated strategy of food, shelter, service, job training, and job placement.
Yeah,
And you're
so
part
like
of this
helping build the
community.
resumes and helping understand proper
Right.
nutrition and how to properly
But
balance your paycheck.
it's all out at the same time. Right now, these piecemeal kind of ad hoc services are perpetuating the problem.
Yeah.
They're getting worse. And rather than spreading our resources thin across the entire state, which it's growing dramatic, our homeless population, they're coming from all over the country, and we know this. It's not just people that were here, but it's threefold. The issue's threefold. So it's mental health, addiction, and the lack of affordable housing. This is what's making this problem even worse. But I hope to use the dollars that we have allocated already to make this coordinated strategy like we do for the homeless teens. So focus our resources on people that are ready to get up and out of the situation. We know that there's a percentage of people that are not interested in any help at all. But we also know that there's a percentage of people that are really desperate to get out of this situation. And we should be focusing on really helping them.
And that stems back to the phrase, teach a man to fish instead of giving him a fish.
Yeah, right. Well, and we're making it worse, and there's not enough for the people that need it badly, and we spend it on people that, are perfectly capable of working and maybe are just fine living the way that they are. And we have a free country. They want to live that way. That's their prerogative. But we shouldn't be using the services that we can barely afford to lend to people that are desperate to get out of that situation. They want to get up and out. I mean, we think about homeless families.
Yeah. Well, and as you mentioned earlier, if they want to tax to try to control behavior, maybe they should just tax being homeless.
There you go, right? If that's what we're doing here.
Yeah. So moving on, so and this has a lot to do with the homeless, because traveling anywhere down I-5, the corridor, whether and I'm from the Lakewood area, so like right here in front of JBLM between Fort Lewis and McCord, between Monday through Friday, 3 to 5, there's always that same amount of traffic, always worse on Fridays. And then especially if we have a concert, for example, I'm looking forward to it, but when we have when the performer coming to the Tacoma Dome, Elton John doing his last performance, it's going to be crazy traffic between Tacoma and Seattle that day Elton John's here, just like when we had the last concert here. So what are some suggestions that you have that, not just between Tacoma and Seattle, because a lot of that has to do with counties that don't involve with you, but in front of JBLM specifically, what suggestions do you have to kind of minimize that traffic for the betterment of our community?
Yeah, well, it doesn't help when our director of transportation says that we're not going to solve traffic.
Yeah.
So how do you go? How is the leader of this problem solver? Do you go into a problem saying, well, we're not going to solve it? But no, I don't think we should have that mentality. I think we need to be futuristic with our travel plans. Right now, like Sound Transit, we're digging up railroad tracks, we're putting down trains. This is regressive. This is not progressive. Sure, that should be one mode of transportation, but we need to think about the future of transportation and travel. And, you talk to people like Elon Musk, which have ideas about not only electric travel, but also the way that our roads should be structured in the future. Yeah. We're not even thinking like that. We talk about widening lanes and, arm wrestle over one lane along DuPont. That should be a no-brainer. We should get the one road down. That should be delivered. But we need to be thinking, what is this going to look like in 10, 20 years? Buses to Kirkland in 25 years is not going to help us. And certainly at the tax rate that we're paying, doesn't seem like a good project. That Sound Transit is $7,000 an inch.
Yeah, see, and that's another thing with when they built in the public transit center here in Lakewood over on Ponders and Pacific Highway. Their area was under construction for almost 6 months, and then all of a sudden they built
Right.
up a city bus transit center that looks like it's hardly used.
Right.
Yeah.
No, right. We're not properly either collecting data or getting the smartest people in the rooms to help us make these transportation plans. So
Yeah.
my idea for our area and for the future of this region is to put our tech people to work. Let them come up with these ideas. We know that families can't take mass transit to get to school, work, in the grocery store.
Exactly.
But what does the future of that look like? What do we do? How can we get more people to work from home if that's what the future of this looks like?
Well, and
But we're not even talking about that.
So that's thinking outside the box. I think just was recently we were just taxed for it here down in Pierce County for the King County for all those the share bike, the share. I forgot what they're calling it. There's so many different ones. So you got those orange bikes now. They're ending up on places in Tacoma, and now you got these the ride share. To me, I'm not riding a bike to pick up my 1-year-old, 3-year-old daughters. Like, that's not happening.
Exactly.
So yeah. So especially when we live in the rainiest state in the union. So yeah, I like that you're thinking outside the box there when it comes to just like, for example, if your job requires you to leave certain hours, how to get more people from working from home to avoid that traffic. I like that idea.
Thank you. But we have to get creative like that. We can't this is the same with our education system. We have this super archaic system from the industrial area, and we keep thinking more money is going to solve this problem. It's not just money. We have to reinvent our education system. Kids need a different style of learning.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't take a genius to assess this.
Well, I can say I don't agree with Common Core.
Sure. I mean, that's just one element. But I think we have longer school days and more recess. I think we can get so much smarter about this. Do more hands-on. Do more technology in the classrooms. But we haven't changed the system. We have everybody sit in the desk in a row facing the front. And we have the same class sizes from kindergarten through high school. How does that get our high schoolers ready for college? And how does that give our kindergartners the attention that they need as little kids with a lot of energy?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's another thing that kind of is frustrating in our state especially, and I don't know who's in charge of being able to allocate those resources, but I remember hearing that, for example, one of the agreements for our state to legalize marijuana on the state level was that a lot of that taxation would go towards the educational system.
Right.
And I don't see it happening.
Just like the lottery. It's supposed to go towards education. But it goes to education in broad terms, but not in the K-12 system that we all thought they were talking about.
Yeah, educational system isn't let's rebuild the school building.
Yeah, exactly.
Not let's rebuild the curriculums.
We just need people in Olympia that have lived everyday lives, that have had a job, held a job outside of some kind of government job, have families, have had to sacrifice between family and work, and know what we're asking of people when we propose new taxes like this, or construction projects that get in the way of being able to go to work or see your family or, see the soccer game.
Exactly, yeah. Now, this last question I have for you is one that's kind of, I guess, more important for me personally. I mean, these have been great questions, and all the questions they cover, a lot of very important topics that people are really worried about. But this one concerns me the most because as a parent, before I became a parent, I was gardening, I was doing my own agriculture, I was even homesteading. So right now, for example, we have corn and beans and pumpkins and squash. We have our own chickens. We have everything. We're almost self-sufficient from home except for electricity.
Nice.
So, one of the topics that you have, and one of the suggestions that you do is tackle how to better our environment for our children specifically, and that comes down to air quality, food, and water. I want to hear your thoughts and your suggestions on, for example, just the average family living here in Pierce County, Tacoma, Lakewood area, what they can do from home to better their air quality, water, and food for not just themselves, but their children.
Yeah, well, I am right there with you. Before I became a parent, I thought gardening was fun, but it wasn't, out of concern for my health and well-being necessarily.
Hmm.
I didn't mind eating boxed foods or whatever the case is. But now, as a parent, I am so very concerned about what goes into my child's mouth, the air that they breathe, the water that they're drinking.
Hmm.
So to say that, all Republicans don't care about the environment or don't care about food and want us all to consume sugar, it's just made up. It's another talking point that people completely out of touch with their neighbors want to portray on people. I mean, they're putting the farmers against the energy tax and the soda tax and everything else. The farmers of our state and the world are the closest people to the environment. They are the ones that have this, they know exactly what's going on, and they are deeply concerned as well about just the future of our environment.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of politics and politicizing around these points and, pitting people against each other. And that is destructive. I think we all want the same thing for our kids and our families, and we have to get past this idea that, you want to contaminate the air so that I have to breathe it and we're all going to die. It's just ridiculous. We all want clean air. We all want clean water, and we should be in it together, and we are. But the media and the politicians that want to divide people will just keep pointing at each other, and that's not what I do. I've been working in Olympia for the last few years, and I'm able to cross those lines where I'm like, okay, guys, bring down the wall. Tell me what this is really about. Why can't we get this through? Or what's holding you back?
Well, on that note, that makes me wonder, 1634, in your opinion, you're opposed or against?
1634 is the grocery tax, right?
I believe that's the one that prevents local municipals from being able to put a grocery tax on anything that's, I guess, precede the state.
You got it. Yeah. So the grocery tax is really what that one is, and it is a direct response to Seattle's soda tax. Mm-hmm. That's the reason Coca-Cola is funding it. All of these companies, these big companies, especially in the soda industry, are funding that initiative. I am in favor of that initiative because voting yes on it prohibits local jurisdictions from putting a tax on groceries. Yeah. Whether that's soda or whether that's produce. I don't think that taxing food is the right idea. And as we've seen with this report from Seattle today, it's not even curbing behavior. So you're just punishing people for the decisions that they're making with regard to their own health. Yeah. I mean, we don't know,
Well, to tax groceries regardless is where you hit the middle class the hardest. So.
Exactly. Right, but what are we going to tax next? Doritos and chocolate chip cake? It just
birthday
shows
candles.
No end. So this is putting a stop on that says local jurisdictions may not raise a tax. Now, that's not to say that the state can't do something. So
that's my curiosity. It seems to be almost repetitive legislation at this point because it's already in the Washington State Constitution, which a lot of people have not read. You can get them for $5 at the library. But you get a little pocket Washington State Constitution. It actually says in there that no city, town, or county can raise a law that's higher than the state constitution, and that includes grocery sales tax. Yeah.
Yep. So I think they're doing this initiative, and if it doesn't work, we'll probably see a lawsuit come forth because you're right. There probably is a case to be made there that they're superseding the state constitution.
Yeah, exactly. Now, just because a lot of my listeners are going to be wanting to know your thoughts, what's your thoughts on I-1639?
1639 is the gun initiative, right? So that's going to be
the extended background checks, waive of medical privacy rights, things like that.
Right. Yeah, no, I think it's working against families. Again, it's working against keeping people safe. You're punishing people that, this is about as crazy as when somebody breaks into your house, gets injured, and then sues you. If somebody breaks in and steals your firearms and commits a crime, you're liable. Even though you were the one that obtained the firearm legally and they did not. It's counterintuitive. And as a, tiny woman myself, I'm not going to do anything to infringe on our Second Amendment. We have the right to protect ourselves constitutionally.
Yeah, and being a cadet from Civil Air Patrol and being a military family, you should be able to be able to voice that even better than I could myself.
Well, yeah, and we learned, gun safety training, and I think that's something we should be teaching schools.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, to put restrictions on 18 to 21-year-olds, that's, again, working backwards. These are the same people that can go through military training and get a firearm, but then when they get home, they're not able to have one.
Yeah, even law enforcement. Yeah, like you can join law enforcement at 18 years old, but now they're telling, in your personal time, you can't carry while off duty.
Well, this is a great show, Alden. I really appreciate being on. Do you have any other questions for me?
Yeah, one last question is going to be I-1631, the carbon fee proposal.
Oh, yeah. Nope, similarly, it's a gas tax. It'll make us the highest gas tax in the nation, and this is something that we are trying to, Jay Inslee is trying to set an example for so that he can finally say that they put a price on carbon and be the leader in environmental regulation. Of course, you have the oil companies coming out against this. At the end of the day, it's a tax on energy. It's going to make everything more expensive, not just gas, but anything that takes gas to get to you. So, food, to say the least, so yeah, I'm not in favor of that one either. And interestingly enough, my opponent is also not in favor of it, has stated this on record, but I got a flyer at the door that said that she was. So I'm not sure, you want to have your cake and eat it too. We're against it, we're for it in this group. So I found that pretty incredible.
Well, and it's important for especially legislators, politicians to have a show of consistency. That's one thing I'm proud of when it comes to you, for example, is when you say you're against something, you not just say it, you put it on your Facebook, you put it on, different advertisements, you put it on your website. You openly voice.
One.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, so when people, because a lot of people on my show audience has a lot of people who are just learning about you and learning where to find your information. What are some websites or some information you want to share for them to find you after the show's over?
Yeah, you can definitely find out more about me at MaiaEspinoza.com. That's MaiaEspinoza.com. But you can also find out more about me personally at my Facebook page, which is at Maia for State Rep. And there we do a lot of engagement. I always engage with people directly, but there you can share kind of some things that maybe you want to hear about or discuss. So I direct people to the Facebook page too. Awesome. Perfect. And
I will leave links here on the show as well for your website and just your about me and everything. Do check out Maia Espinoza's information. She has some. I do love your commercial advertising, by the way. Your political shared announcements. Those are coming from a film media background. You do a really great job there. So that's one reason why I follow you and I vote for you.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Well, thanks, Alden. I appreciate it. It's great to have a constituent like you in this district.
Oh well, thank you very much. It's awesome to have someone my age knowing that what we've gone through, that we can actually help to make that a better place for our community and our children. So.
That's right. I appreciate you doing this show.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I appreciate you being on. Check out Maia Espinoza at MaiaEspinoza.com. And Maia, you have a good day.
You too. Thanks again.
All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
So that was Maia. Do check out her website, MaiaEspinoza.com. And do follow her. Like I said, she's very consistent. She stays consistent. And she's honestly one of the few people, like compared to Maria Cantwell, for example, who considers community service, or considers her hiking experience as community service. Maia is someone who actually is she's a lot more logical. She's been through a lot more issues. You heard her for yourself. So check out Maia Espinoza. Maia Espinoza. I can't even talk now. It's MaiaEspinoza.com, and that's the end of our show. So we'll be back on Thursday, and thanks you guys for listening. Have a good night.